Welcome along to the Finance Performance Meeting. We'll stand for the opening karakia to start with, please. Whakataka taho ki te uru. Great. So apologies. I've got an apologies from Councillors Kewen and Templeton for partial absence, and we've got Tyler and Goff on Zoom. So we'll just note that. Victoria's happy to second it. I'll move it. Vic's happy to second it. All in favour? Against? That's carried. Thank you. And it looks like, I think David might have Aaron sitting in the waiting room. I think he might be in the waiting room there, potentially. Cool. Then we've just got our normal declarations of interest. Kelly and Tim on item 11, Victoria and Jake on item 12, and myself and Mel on item 13. Then we'll go to the minutes of the 26th of March. I'm happy to move those. Andre's happy to second them. All in favour? Against? That's carried. We don't have any public forums or deputations. No petitions. So we'll go first to Peter Ryan's report, item 7. Come on up, Peter.
Right, good morning everyone. This is the third quarter performance report on the vital few things we need to get right. It's quite a pleasure to say that overall this is the best set of numbers we've seen in maybe 15 years. I'll step you through that, but combined with the resident survey and the staff survey, this is a very positive sweep across the board in recent months. Obviously there are little things to work on, but I'm speaking in the round. Stepping through, community levels of service, that's the services that ratepayers actually get in person. They're at 89, 90%. That's above target and back to pre-earthquake levels. That's the product of work by staff. We haven't had a windfall in the form of a great summer or anything like that. That's just simply getting the results up there. Similar for management levels of service, those are the behind-the-scene things that have to be in place for the services to be delivered. Capital delivery, and I stress delivery, not spend, is on track. And one of the reasons I mentioned that this is a positive set of results is that even back in pre-earthquake periods, when levels of service were around 90%, we were still facing significant carry forwards in the capital program. So overall, on balance, this is two high-level positives. Capital projects planning for 2026 is on track. 27 planning is amber, but it has moved from 80 to 90% by June before, so that's still entirely possible. The item to watch is possibly activity budgets. There's an overspend in water supply, personnel and maintenance costs, revenue from excess water. Wastewater is similar. There are some smaller issues in parks and libraries. I will stress, though, that overall the budget is fine. This is at the unit level, and there are always unders and overs at that level. So all up, there is room for improvement on specific local projects and specific services, but in the round, this is a really great set of numbers. I'm happy to take any questions.
Awesome, thank you for that, Peter. And it's good. It's good. Like you're quite right. When we get closer to the end of the year, we get a bit more surety, and it's good to see. Largely, it's heading in the right direction. Does anyone have any questions for Peter? Yanni.
Yeah, thanks for the report, Peter. I note with interest that both the excess water charges and the Hagley Park or Botanic Gardens car parking revenue are two of the lines that are leading to us not performing as well as we thought we would. Given that those were kind of introduced as revenue raising, and I understand there's other objectives, but fundamentally they were a key part of...
Sorry, the excess water was not for revenue raising, it was for reducing the infrastructure.
Well, given that we've used those line items as revenue increases, right, which is fair, that's how we did the budget.
Okay, just ask your question.
So I'm just wondering, is there a different way of approaching it when we're budgeting so that we don't end up with this shortfall? Like, why have we been so overly optimistic with our assumptions if we're not meeting the revenue targets that we set? Is there something we should be thinking about as we budget to do something differently in that space?
I think that's a complicated question. I think it needs financial advice, to be honest. I'm not sure that's one that I should just tackle off the hip.
Right.
I don't think a glib response or a one-liner is going to do that justice.
Yeah.
Just take that
Okay.
away.
And then
I think Bede's got something, and then Brent may have as well.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Councillor Hanson. I think what we need to do is understand what the assumption, or go back and look at the assumptions and understand where those assumptions meant that there was a departure from the expected revenue and build those into the annual plan that we're doing presently, and that's what's happening. But there are a number of variables that in a way we don't know how they'll pan out until we actually get the evidence, such as the parking. What is the response of users once there is a charge? And so we're looking at that, but to Peter's point, it is a little bit difficult to just give a sort of a soundbite answer on the spot, because there's a number of assumptions that informed those revenue lines, and then we have to understand where the departures were in terms of why they didn't perform as expected.
yeah,
So we can come back with additional work and maybe look at that as part of through you, Mr. Chair, is when we talk to the annual plan budget.
yeah, or like the excess water charge is another one where we set targets. We want to reduce the water usage. So do we set a phasing out, a lower phasing of revenue year on year? Yeah.
I think Brent's got something to add, and then we'll...
Yeah, I understand what the council is saying, and just to add on to what Bede said, and don't forget those external influences. So you have a wet summer and people use less water, so you bring in less revenue, and reminding council that they also changed the level of where the excess water charges kick in, so that affects it as well. So it's going to take a bit of work to look at that.
Okay.
Also, can I just add that when you use less water, you're saving on the infrastructure delivery costs. So there's another side of the ledger to take into account.
And then the only other question I had was one that I've asked before, but it's around the IT around water, particularly around the backflow register. And again, we've missed the target. I think it was going to be May last time, and now it's the end of May. I'm just increasingly concerned around the IT associated with this. Is there some assurance we can get about what's happening in that space? Like, do we need like a separate briefing on what's happening with IT?
Gavin might have something to add in.
Yeah, there's been a delay on that project, just with the detailed testing of the work they've done. There's some operational issues that came up, so it was not a fault of IT. It's just something that happened in the project, so it's pushed out to May. But they are on track to have that register up and running end of May.
I presume we're going to have another meeting with Te Mata Awaroi. Is that being rescheduled? Because some of us are really keen to look at what we can do to get chlorine out in the exemption. And given that it's related to our targets, it would be good to know.
My understanding, and Gavin, correct me if I'm wrong, was they were rescheduling. They just couldn't get here because of flights.
Correct, yes.
Yep.
It'll be rescheduled.
Do we
Don't have a date yet, but won't be too far away.
Okay, so looks like we're all good. So Jake looks like he's here to move this, and Mark's here to second it. All in favour? Against? That's carried. Thank you very much, Peter.
Thank you.
Russell, do you want to come on up for item 8, please?
Thanks very much, Mr. Chair, and good morning all. So this is the finance report for March. It seems a bit odd, it's May tomorrow, but there we go. It's that timing of the meeting. So it's a quarterly report, and because it's a quarterly report, it's got a few more items in the report, and it's detailed there: treasury, rates, debt, general debt, insurance claims, and also an attachment is the activities. The activities of council cut in a different way. So as at the end of March, council was operating at a surplus of $24.2 million, which was $39.5 million greater than budget. It's the position that it was then. The focus of these reports mainly is to give a bit of an update on where we are, but mostly where we're going to be at the end of the year. And so looking at the forecast and where we're sitting then, the forecast was sitting at $32.3 million for end of the year. So that's a significant jump on where we were the report that I presented last month. So the reasons for that, we had some additional subventions that came in. It's about $2.2 million worth of subventions come in, which we hadn't anticipated for the previous month. Burwood landfill revenues continued to be higher than expectations. Understanding that the council's budget, we have a turnover of about $1 billion. So, that means a $1 million variance is 0.1 of 1%. So small percent, but large dollars. So some of those items I'm talking about, we've had a reduction in interest expense of $1 million. So again, on borrowings of 2.8 billion, that's not a big move, but it does have quite an impact on the bottom line. We budget quite closely to get as close as we can. And like I say, the focus is on where we're going to be. The other items, Mr. Chair, are pretty consistent. Previous months, why we're up. Insurance, we're well across for the reasons for that. The funding, I guess, of borrowings has been less than we had anticipated, mainly because we've had additional cash in the bank. So we don't actually go out and borrow on individual projects. We borrow on the cash requirement. So when we had the insurance proceeds come in, that was quite a buffer to us, so we had to borrow less. And so personnel costs and insurance costs, like I've mentioned, are down, and lower costs in waste management. There's been some offsetting, so building planning consent volumes, they're up, so higher revenue, but also the contra to that is we've experienced some additional cost going through. In the capital space, we're forecasting to be about $40 million after net $40 million underspent by the end of the year. We expect most of that would be requested to be carried forward, but that would happen $4 million. That would be come through at the August report, but that's sort of where it's sitting at the moment. Look, a couple of other items I just highlight. We talk about the conditions that we have, so the economic conditions for the community and how that is with debt. So item 8.2 shows the level of rates debt compared with the rate strike, and it's pleasing to see that trajectory going down. So that's a number of reasons driving that. One is the work of the team, working pretty hard with folk who get into trouble, and we like to have conversations with people before they get that. We try to help people rather than hammer people. So that seems to be improving the position, which is pleasing to see. That's pretty much it, Mr. Chair. Happy to take any questions on that.
Great, thank you for that, Russell. Are there any questions? Yanni?
Yeah, thank you. I was just interested around the strategic planning and resource consenting, and I see that we've saved money because we've got due to staff vacancies, but then we've overspent on consultants. So I'm just wondering, when are we likely to see a change in that? E.g., wouldn't it be better to hire staff than pay private consultants a lot more to do the work?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's a good question, and that's one that we ask as well. It's not always offset. Consultants generally come in for specialised skills at a very short time, whereas staff are ongoing, and depending on the work that the staff are required to do and where we are in that space to be able to get that, and also being able to employ staff at the skill set that we need. So there's a number of things in that, but certainly the push of council is to, where we do have consultants, we look at the question, should that be better filled by staff, and where we can, we do, but it's not always possible.
I feel like this is a budget that has been continuously underspent because of staff vacancies, and then when you read the last line, forecast overspend consultants due to a high level of outsourcing being required to manage volumes and meet timelines with staff vacancies. So I wonder, is audit and risk looking at that, or maybe is there a kind of...
I think maybe what we do is, Mary, is that something you could just come back to us on?
I think we've got a report to council next week on resourcing and planning and consent.
Well, they might be able to preempt it.
So maybe we could get just an understanding of what we're doing to mitigate.
Perfect.
If I could just, that certainly is Councillor, that certainly is a focus of the organisation looking at that space. Yep.
Great. Okay. So I'm here to move this, and Kelly's here to second it. But before we do, Russell, I just want to acknowledge you. So it's your last meeting presenting to us at council. You've been here for over 3 years, and while you're sort of spending a bit of time in Australia, you still assure me you're going to be a ratepayer in Christchurch. So I'm pleased about that. But no, in all seriousness, thank you very much for all the work you've done. I mean, I think everyone around this table has really benefited from you stepping us through these financial reports every month. And I think you've lifted the knowledge of everyone, which has been really good, and people watching as well. So thank you for all your work and your dedication to the council. We're sad to see you go, but we're really pleased that you're getting to do some more of the funner things in life that you, not that council isn't fun, but the funner things in life that you really want to, and we just want to acknowledge you for that. So thanks very much.
Just before I step back, thanks very much, Mr. Chair. Very, very kind words. And look, I've enjoyed my time here, and I've particularly enjoyed this committee. Like the candour and the respect and the appreciation that I've felt from across has been outstanding. And there certainly has been some probing questions, and some I haven't been able to answer, and you've been quite good, and some I have, so that's good as well. But we've always come back, and look, I've appreciated the focus and the intent on wanting to do the best for the city in this space. So hey, thanks. I wish you all the best. Sadly, I won't be here for the annual plan deliberations.
But you're going out on a high with such a big surplus.
Well, so. There we go. Yes, I just leave it with the team now, and don't break it, Mr. Chair.
There is no guarantee of that. Hey, thank you very much, Russell.
Cool.
Yeah, appreciate it. Cheers. Okay, so we've had a mover and a seconder. We'll put that motion. All in favour?
Just had my hand up to speak.
Oh, yes. Really?
Yeah. Just quickly. Thank you. I just wanted to draw council's attention to paragraph 14 in the report too. So yeah, I wanted to thank Russell and the staff for the report. I think this report is excellent. But again, it's flagging in 14 with internal services, the over expenditure on consultants and professional advice. So I do think as a council, there's a piece of work that we need to do wider than just consenting. It is around that having staff vacancies and then overspending on professional fees and consultants to come in and fill the gap. So I hope maybe audit and risk should be looking at that, or maybe there's a way for this committee to look at it. But I do think reading the information in the report today, that is something that does stick out on a number of different departments that we have. Thank you.
Well, you won't miss that, Russell. So let's put that to the vote. All in favour? Against? That's carried. Great, thank you. Okay, let's move to the next report. Nikki, can you come up for capital program, please?
Kia ora koutou katoa. Good morning. So to brief, as at the end of quarter 3, 64% of the overall capital program budget is spent, so that's up 57% from February. March actuals, 474.2 million, are 36.5 million ahead of the same point last year. So that's showing a positive year-end momentum. And then year-end forecast result is 93%, so we're down 96% in February based on refined delivery forecasts. I want to take you on a little journey with what we're doing now. So the PMO forecast is now sitting at 500 million. The opening PM forecast for the capital for FY25 was 550.6 million, and our PMO forecast was sitting at 510 million. And those figures are from August 2024. But now our current PMO forecast is 500 million for the Christchurch City Council capital, and it's higher than the project manager's consolidated forecast of 488.7 million. This reflects our observations as a team. We've worked hard and gone through and analysed, as we always do throughout the year. And this reflects our observations from the previous 2 financial years relating to the under-forecasting of the June period. So in both years, the year-end expenditure exceeded project manager Q4 forecasts. FY23, the year-end expenditure in our CCC capital exceeded financial PM forecasts by 47 million, and in the 24 year, it exceeded by 20. So the key reasons for June expenditure exceeding forecast include the following. So the year-end capitalisation of costs that were previously charged to OPEX, difficulties in predicting the time of large payments, so like cost shares, land purchases, contract payments, and some projects not adequately accounting for accruals in June, where both May and the June invoices get paid at the same time. So this analysis indicates that the current PM forecast for FY25 may still be exceeded at year end, and this is reflected in our PMO forecast of 500 million. Further analysis on historical trends also supports the year end FY25 forecast of between 495 and 510 million. So there's two reasons. The CCC capitals, there's an average of 35% of expenditure historically occurs within quarter four. And applying this logic to our FY25 based on the end of Q3 results gives our year-end forecast a gain of approximately 498 million. And stepping through the deliverability workshop that happened yesterday that Paul took you through and going through that phase logic applied to this as well, that gives us FY25 year start budget result of approximately 510, so that's why we're saying it's in with that range, and we're standing at the PMO at 500 million. Can take any questions.
Great, thank you for sort of setting the scene on that. That's really useful. Does anyone have specific questions on the capital program? Mark.
Yeah, this is probably for Lynette more than Nikki. Just a query around the Hallsville Junction Road extension. I notice in the report that it's showing its opening on the 17th to 22nd of May, which has caught us by surprise. It's good to hear it's opening. Is that in fact a correct date?
The block line is booked for early May and the work should be done, and they are working to those dates. The risk of those dates not being hit is now lowering as we get closer to it. So there is still a risk that it will be met, but that is the date they're working to. Yeah.
Excellent.
And with QRail.
Very good. With that project, is there likely to be any opening of the crossing?
I'll have to come back to you on that.
Well, Mike Moore has asked to get his scissors out, so.
I'll have to come back to you on that one.
Thank you.
Great.
And one more question
sure.
around the South Express. Just wondering for some clarification around timing on that. I noticed there's mention there of the Parker Street crossing with QRail being delayed, and seems to suggest that there's no definite time frame around that now, and it's pretty much up in the air.
We don't have a definite time frame on the Parker Street crossing at this stage, but the rest of the route is continuing as planned.
Very good. So we should see the Templeton stretch starting later this year, I guess, is it?
Yep, that's the plan.
Thank you.
I've got Victoria, then Tyrone, then Yanni.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Yep, my question is in relation to the major cycleway Northern Line route, the railway crossings, which is on page 183 of our agenda. I note that our financial status is within budget and our time status, the works are actually completed. Just clarification, we've still got it sitting at risk. Is that simply because we're waiting for Kiwi Rail to commission the timing and the turning on of the signals? Because everything else is done and within budget.
It is to do with Kiwi Rail. Lynette?
I agree with the councillor, everything else is green and go, but yes, we are waiting on QRail to finalise the signals, which is planned soon. The issue with the signals there is that they all need to be linked together, so they'll all be unbagged at the same time. So.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Thanks, Nikki, for all the work you've done on this. It's really, really good and comprehensive. So the forecast is about 60 odd million short of the budget. Do we have a sense of the things in the next annual plan that are already going to be impacted by the things that we're not going to deliver on in this financial year? So we're 60 million short, so that's 60 million that's, or maybe 50, whatever, a number.
Yeah.
That's going to be carried forward into the next annual plan. So that's going to push 50 million out, presumably, or 40 million or whatever. Do we have is the work already going on as to what that bow wave is going to look like?
Absolutely. Paul, did you want to give an update on that one? Is that the net nil?
The key information for that's at the bottom of each of the sections. So like on the bottom of page 167, for example, is one of them. So those little tables at the bottom of each of those sections there show you the top 5 projects that are going slower than we anticipated, which is on the left side, and the ones on the right are the ones that are going faster. So that's the top 5 looking like underspends for the year, and the top 5 overspends for the year, which is bringbacks and the carry forwards, effectively what they will be, those projects.
Okay, thank you. Some of those projects won't flow into next year, though. Like
no, some of them will, and the objective is we'll still be looking for a net nil impact to 26 with the carry forwards. So looking to net off the carry forwards and bringbacks to get it to net 0 in 26. So the impact is more likely to be 27 and forward.
Okay, thank you. No, cool. Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you. Has the Sawyers Arms crossing been done?
Sawyers Arm Road rail crossing.
Yeah.
Councillor? Yes.
Okay. And I'm just wondering, like, where we got to with Kiwi Rail around a discussion around all these projects, the costs, and the constant delays. Like, is there any? Like, I can't quite recall. We've had so many previous resolutions around meeting with ministers or writing to ministers, meeting with the board. Individuals have met with some of the Kiwi Rail staff. Is there a kind of a time and point where we can get an overview of where things have got to? Because I also note yesterday in our briefing we were going to defer Scrutton's Road again out for another 2 years. And when we tried to do that, or tried to reduce it in the annual plan, we were told no, it was risky. So I'm just trying to understand, like, what's the relationship with Kiwi Rail like at the moment, and how do we at a governance level get a sense of what are the different pressure points that we have and how they're being addressed?
Councillor, I certainly understand the challenges with understanding what's going on with 2 different programs and 2 different organisations. So I suggest as staff we'll provide you a written update that'll come through the office's CE system. But I can say from a staff perspective, we're working closely with them and we're working hard to try and find solutions.
The solutions seem to be that our projects keep getting delayed and we keep spending more and more money that we don't, that we can seldom afford.
Within the resource capacity that both of each organisation has, we are doing the best we can, but we are working closely with staff. But I'll give you an update on progress and where we're at with all the projects in a written.
Could we perhaps consider setting up a joint governance working group with Kiwi Rail to kind of progress it?
Can we get the advice back first, and then we can have a discussion as a group?
Okay.
Yeah, but let's get it all into one thing so that we're really clear on where it's at right now, and then potentially some recommendations on what needs to improve to go forward, and let's go from there. And we'll feed that in.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to ask, on terms of Pages Road Bridge, is there anything we can do to, like, what can we do to get it off the critical phase? Like, it's an important project to the community, and it's red. Again, do we need to be politically lobbying government around making decisions on it or funding it further? What could we do to support the Pages Road Bridge getting off critical status and getting back on track?
Through the chair, I think council's done a lot to lift it. You've listed it as your number one project from a transport perspective. It was listed and lifted up in the RLTP priorities. We are working with NZTA to push through a business case which is aiming to get to the August NZTA board meeting. That is all on track to get there. The business case from an NZTA perspective is reasonably streamlined and has used their new processes. Once we've got it through the board, we will be push and go fast. But that's the sort of go no go point from a funding perspective.
Are you able just to clarify, in the baseline June 2028, we're now forecasting April 2030?
Can you tell me
It's
page number,
just
please?
on page 180. Once Kiwi Rail makes their decision, is there any chance we can get back to that June 28 baseline?
I'm sorry, Councillor
Sorry,
Kiwi-Rail.
NZTA. Sorry, NZTA. Apologies.
Once NZTA makes a decision on the funding in the funding envelope, we will then be into the consenting phase and the procurement phase for the design and consenting of the bridge.
Right.
So once we get through that phase and once we've got tenders awarded, this was further to discussion that we had yesterday, until we get into a phase where we've got tenders awarded, we actually can't put as much certainty on the timelines. But we will be doing everything we can to bring the timelines back.
Okay, cool.
Okay, Celeste.
This just a follow up to the Pages Road stuff. Can I just check? Has the business case been submitted yet? I know it was sort of May is the.
It's just about finalised and due to be submitted. It's going to an internal. It's going to an internal NZTA committee, late May, early June.
Cool, thank you.
And then to an August.
And with regards to the request, it was actually more probably through the chair for the mayor. There was a request sent through around fast track. I know that we put one through initially. It was separated out from the OARC project, which I'm not quite clear on why that happened because they were supposed to be bundled together. But it was put through separately and it was declined. But it's open again for submissions. Are we looking at resubmitting it?
Be an organisational response, not the mayor.
I believe there's been advice back on that through the Office of the CE, and that was we can submit it at any time. I'd have to go back. I'll resend the advice that was sent on that.
We'll get it circulated.
Yeah, it might be helpful to get that. Are we able to get something in public around that? Because I think there's interest.
Yeah,
and it
was
would be
public
good.
advice.
I think there'd be an appetite to use fast track, so we should.
Yeah.
Yep. Cool. Okay. Right, so we're good. The mayor's happy to move it. Mel's happy to second it. All in favour?
Oh, sorry, Chair.
Oh.
All good.
Oh, that's carried. Thanks, Tyler. Now I'm just going to bring VO forward. So sorry, Barry, you might just have to wait 5 minutes. Is Linda here?
Oh, maybe outside.
Do you want?
Mate, just.
We'll just we might. Well, let's just see if Linda's here, because if not, we'll just carry on. But
She is here. Might just plan down.
the reason is, and I hope Gil doesn't mind me sharing it, he has a very important plane to get on to get to an investiture for someone very dear to him. so we don't want to be the ones responsible for him missing that flight, or it won't be worth him coming back to Christchurch, I suspect. So. Yeah. Yeah, do you want to? No, I thought we don't want to miss that flight. Yeah, I think they're just getting her now. If she's there.
She is here.
Great. Sorry, Linda, to throw you into a spin.
Oh.
Great. So this is the VO one, which I'm happy to move and the mayor's happy to second. But do you want to just run us through?
I'm just going to do a quick intro. Hi, Bill. Good morning.
We're here to present the venues Otatahi draft SOI. I'm just going to run through a couple of key points from the SOI, and then I'm going to ask any questions to be directed to Gil and Caroline. So the draft SOI has been prepared for and prior to this coming here today, there was a workshop. This is the first time One New Zealand has been included in the draft SOI. Staff and VO are working together to understand the forecasts, and that work is ongoing towards the final SOI. And there will be a workshop on the 20th of May where Caroline and Gil will present the commercial issues that are ongoing around One New Zealand.
When you say issues, you mean considerations, don't you?
Yes, the considerations. Yeah. Well, I don't. Yes, issues can be positive and negative, I suppose. Yeah. So I wonder if I could take the report now as read, and if any questions could be directed to, or any of us, really.
Yep. Great. Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions? Yanni.
Just appreciate we're going to have the workshop on the 20th of May, but we're already getting information about the commercial strategy released to the public. So I'm just trying to understand, like, at what point do we get input into it, because it does seem a bit weird that people are already talking about like pricing and we haven't even.
Yanni, to be clear though, we wouldn't set the prices for the corporate stuff. That's the whole point of having an operator.
But understanding the width of the opportunity, because we're putting the capital in, and we're putting a lot of operational money in, even though it's going through into a separate company. So, I'm just trying to understand, like, in a workshop, what's the width of what we can discuss versus decisions that are going to be
You'll
made.
be able to raise all the issues you want within reason at that workshop.
And are we able to get, like, is there a season ticket strategy as well?
That can be dealt with at the workshop. This is the statement of intent.
Yeah, it's in here.
So it's moved and seconded. So is there any different questions?
Yeah, so just the other question, and I think it's really good. So we've got the briefings on the activation outside of events. So that obviously that stuff will be worked on. In terms of the planning around balance of precinct, I'm still unclear whether that's a task that we should task VO with doing, or Christchurch and Z, or council staff.
I completely get your point, and I agree with you, but I don't think it's a question for this team. Andrew, can you take that away, please? Yeah.
We can take that away, and we can do some work and probably discuss it at that workshop as well, if needed.
Okay.
Cool. Okay, so that's been moved and seconded. All in favour? Against? That's carried. Thank you very much. Cheers. Right, sorry, Barry and Mark. Come on up.
Kelly and I will step back from this one as well, just because of the connection through VO. Perhaps.
Can do if you want.
Just to keep it,
Yep. All good. Whatever suits. Yeah. Okay.
Morena tātou. I'm here because David Kennedy's on leave this week. So look, we've got some drone footage to show you. You've received the update, and happy to take any questions. Kent Somerville may join us at some stage, but if not, I'm sure Mark and I can handle it. So
this is drone footage from a couple of weeks ago. We're starting northern end of the site. You can see there the steel structure has now been completed. Now coming along the western stand, this is the Madras Street side of the facility. Working there on the roof, you can see all the roof purlins and that. They're the members going across the white steel frames. As we come past there, you can see the the roofing, the solid roofing at the side, and also just down below there you can see the glazing going in on the west elevation. As we come through now, you can see the solid roof has now been completed, so that's up to the southern 22. And we're coming through now. Most of the cultural narrative facade on the south elevation along Chewham Street has now been completed, looking really stunning. Now moving around onto the east stand and Barbados Street. You can see, just gives you an idea of the scale of it when you can see the people up there on the roof. And they're like little ants really, so it sort of just shows you the scale of it. Once again, just moving down the east elevation, you can see the working on the facade and also just on the roof, and we're coming back to the north end. So they're starting the preparations now for the ETFE, the clear roofing, which will start from that southern 22, come right over the flat part of the roof, and then the solid roof will go all the way around, and then the north elevation will have glazing going in to let the sun in for the turf, just so that it'll grow. So that's the drone footage. Through you, Mr. Chair, I'll just take the report as written, but just a couple of things from the report, I guess. The thing you like to hear, we're on program and on budget and no quality issues. They are progressing very well. We're still maintaining a strict control on the contingency and risks. As I said, the roof is now finished. You may remember in the past we've had a couple of temporary towers, sort of brownie coloured towers that they've used for the roof installation. They're now being removed. Progressing well on the seating. All the upper bowls have been completed, and they're now doing the lower bowls, are the ones that come down to the actual field of play. Installation of the services is progressing well on the stands, and also working on the, not today, but painting all the steelwork, doing the touch-ups, putting one final coat of of paint over all the steelwork. Which they're doing by roller, so it's quite a painstaking job doing that. Fit out is progressing well inside, so they're doing a lot of the toilets and players areas, and that have been completed. As they complete those areas, they're locking them off, so doing the defects and then shutting them so nobody else can get into it. Also working on the bar areas. And another milestone, we had the replay screens and the ribbon boards, which are going to be at 2 levels, field of play, and at level 1. They've now been delivered, taken into storage at Wolfbrook Arena. And we're also watching grass grow out at off-site where they're growing the field of play. But we had a neighbours site tour on the 24th of March. The neighbours were very happy with that they could actually see what's been happening on site. And we also had a media tour there on the 14th of April, which was well represented there as well. But and just the final comment there, B6 Watback ahead of all their sustainability targets on the project.
Great, thank you very much for that.
Maybe I can just make
go for it.
one other comment, Sam, that's not on the report. We are spending a lot of time at the moment working through the commissioning and testing program. So that comprehensive program and has been delivered by B6 Watback to the project team. And so ourselves,
Sorry.
So ourselves, council and VO are working through that commissioning program. There's 600 separate items to commission, so it's a very comprehensive program. And obviously we've done a risk assessment to work out the areas that that the project team will be on site to witness that sign-off. But our understanding from VO and council is they'll probably be there for 2/3 of the commissioning sign-off process. So there's a lot of minor items and they'll be there for all the major items. In addition to that, there's a quite a significant training program that is being organised as we hand over the facility and the operation of the facility to Venue Sortatahi. So that's all been planned and scheduled and locked in for the next 12 months. So as we work through areas, those areas actually get closed off and no one's allowed into those areas because they've been signed off. So there's a lot of activity going on, just making sure we are now sort of heading towards the commissioning phase of the project. So I just want to reassure you that that is a major review that's going on at board and management level at the moment.
Thank you for that. That's really useful. Any questions, Phil, and then Yanni?
Thanks, guys. As just getting down to some weeds a bit, that FTE stuff or the plasticky stuff, is that great big rolls like carpet sort of thing, or is it sheets, or how is it? What is it?
Question.
They're actually bubbles of ETFE, and they pump air into them, so just to keep them inflated. So they tell me once they're inflated, you can actually walk on it. I don't think I'd be keen on walking on it, but yeah.
Oh, so when it's finished, there's a gap, so to speak.
There is. There's an air gap. Yep.
Oh yeah. Oh, well. I'll come and watch you.
Great, Yanni.
Oh yeah. Thank you. Several questions. I was really keen to know what had been done in that Pacific People's Space, and also if there was any opportunity, following on from the success of our Flair Street Art Festival, for display of street art in the precinct or on the building.
Oh, I could probably answer that. So the relationship with the Pacific community is a long-term relationship between VO and council going forward. So we've largely completed the cultural activation work with Naitua Huriri, and Jane Hulia, one of our directors, has been working with the project team and the VO to reach out to the Pacific community so that we properly acknowledge the church that was on the site in the past, but in terms of arranging future involvement, that very much is a VO and council responsibility going forward.
Okay. And again, I'll probably be told you're not the right people to ask, but I'm just increasingly concerned that we haven't got any plan for balance of precinct, and yet we've got a whole bunch of construction happening on site. And so if we don't have a plan for balance of precinct, then we end up duplicating a lot of the service provision, a lot of the planning work. Is there anything going on around balance of precinct that would be good for us to be doing now, working out what we're doing with the surplus property that we own, so that the construction of Te Kaha can actually be done in alignment with whatever we're proposing to do there?
I think, Barry, it's probably a question for Andrew, and it might be something we don't necessarily have an answer. Feel free to add something in.
The other thing I want to say is that we're open to be engaged with any of those discussions as it may affect the project. So obviously we've been involved with the streets and the upgrades there to make sure that there's smooth integration between the parties. Probably Andrew's the best person to answer.
Is there a key time frame?
Yeah, hang on, just Andrew, do you want to add in anything on that?
Look, I think it's better if we come back.
Yep. Cool.
I guess I'm just keen, given how quickly you're progressing on, we'll get to a point where there'll be a point of no return if we want to do anything additional. Do we have a sense of how integral?
You did read my mind.
I guess probably the best way to put it.
But it's not. Hang on, Barry. It's not.
We've left the. I think we're leaving the site in a position.
Can you not hear me?
Oh, sorry.
Wait. Yeah. It's not a question for Barry.
Oh, okay.
It's a question for Andrew, and Andrew said he'll come back to you. So it's not. Well, their remit is to deliver the stadium on time and on budget, which is what they're doing.
Understood.
And we'll include them when we need to.
I was just trying to be respectful of if they needed notice to do something additional, what sort of time frame, when does we miss the point of no return? That was all. But I'm happy to wait and get advice from staff.
Probably yesterday. But to be frank, I mean, if this is a council asset at the end of the day, we'll be as flexible as you need us to be to integrate what you need to happen.
Okay.
So,
and the final question was just in regards to, so South Basin no longer being subcontracted and Naylor Love are. Are you able just to elaborate what's happened there?
Yeah, so we were given notice on the 16th of April, which was right before Easter, by B6 that they were making, and this is what their words were, a minor change to their project team. and it wasn't going to have any impact on the delivery of the project. Our concern was that as soon as they said native love, that we had to take actions to ensure that there were no perceived conflicts of interest, because our chief executive is on the board of native love and we have a director on the board of native love. They have both stepped down from the native love board, so there are no conflicts of interest. So our focus, we don't have a relationship with South Place, right? We only have one relationship, and that is with B6. So our focus, as it always has been and will continue to be, is what's happening on the site. So we're very close to the B6 project director. We've got a board meeting on Friday, so we'll be on the site on Friday, and every board meeting the project director gives us an update of what's going on the project. So I would classify it as being an inconvenience, and that's how we're treating it.
I was just trying to understand if we were given a reason why.
Nope, because at the end of the day, we don't have a relationship with South Place. We only have a relationship with B6. So my understanding is that they gave us the notice. I think they've been inducted this week onto the site, and that's it. Yep.
Okay, so that's been moved by the Mayor, seconded by Victoria. Thank you both for that, and thanks again for all you're doing. It's good to get the good news keep coming through. So that's moved and seconded. All in favour? Against? That's carried. Great, thanks very much.
Okay,
Cheers.
thank you.
Okay, let's go to item 12. Christchurch NZ are here. Hey, Lauren and Linda and Ellie and Laura and Lauren. We've got the whole team.
I'm just going to introduce it. Yeah. I'm just going to introduce. Ready to go? Yep. So this is the CNZ draft SOI. As with the other presentation, I'm just going to run through a few points and ask for questions. There was a workshop prior to the draft SOI. It has been prepared in the context of a Section 17A LGA review that is ongoing or is being progressed. That has created some uncertainty. The proposed council comments and the recommendations are matters of clarification. We're asking for clarification in the SOI for the benefit of stakeholders that we're not raising omissions in delivery. If I take it as read, and if there's any questions, Ali and Lauren are here to address them.
Thank you. Welcome. Celeste.
First of all, welcome. Good to see you. I had a number of questions. Just trying to think of where to start. But I think the first question I had was, I understand there was a letter sent from the board to the mayor. I requested that yesterday at the informal, and I've also sent it through to Sam and Phil. When do we likely to get a copy of that?
Is that the email that just came through?
Oh, it was sent this morning. Yesterday.
Yeah, I haven't responded to it yet, but the organisation will. I haven't seen the letter.
Haven't seen the letter, but it was sent to the mayor. So are we able to get any clarification on that prior to signing off on the statement of intent? It would seem that would be quite pertinent to the discussion today.
Draft, so,
through you, Mr. Chair, what we're doing here, look, I can follow up on the letter, but what we're doing here is passing comments on the draft statement of intent for CNZ to consider before it's finalised at the end of June. So I can come back to you on that, Councillor.
Yeah, so this isn't finalising it today.
Yeah, it'd be good if we could get that circulated, because I think it's been requested a few times now and we haven't received it, so that's a little bit concerning.
Well, can we, Mary, is that something you could pick up, just how many times it's been requested and the reason why it hasn't been released? And then come back to us, because that's, they're not helpful comments if they are not coming through the system properly. Yeah.
I think they did come through the system. The next question is for Christchurch NZ. So I'm just trying to understand some of the current constraints in delivering the pipeline of urban regeneration work. have you been given direction from council and a clear understanding of expectations in this space?
That's the nature of the letter that you're referring to, which was sent to the Mayor on the 28th of January. It's in relation to the urban development work. It's our view that that's not something we would be keen to discuss in a public session. We are waiting for direction from the shareholder in terms of urban development, but we are in this session responding to the LOA as it was written.
Right. Okay. So that's helpful. I appreciate that. So my understanding then is we would need that letter in order to then understand completely where that program sits. So it would be helpful to get a copy of that. And just focusing on an area dear to my heart. Christchurch is there's a number of areas that the city's identified as a priority for urban regeneration. Linwood's one of them, New Brighton, Sydenham, other key areas. I know that Christchurch has been doing fantastic work in New Brighton, and I'd really like to see that work continue in other areas, taking on those lessons we've learned in lift and shift to perhaps somewhere like Sydenham or Linwood. Do you feel like you're in a position to do that? I'm aware that the team itself has dropped it's gone to less than half. So do you feel like there's constraints in terms of resourcing? Because I'm concerned that maybe a lack of direction from council, if that's what is happening, is leading to a hold up in the delivery of some really critical work that aligns with our long-term plan. And as the councillor for the eastern suburbs, I'd hate to think that there's any constraints on delivering that work.
I think there have definitely been some uncertainties, which is always difficult to we all know from the world that we're currently in, uncertainty makes things challenging. I think the work that we've done in New Brighton is something we're really proud of. I think it's been a really, really great case study, and we're in the process of writing that up as a case study to be exactly what you've talked about, which is a lift and shift. It's also fair to say that our intervention in New Brighton is probably coming towards an end, because now we've got a private sector developer that has come in to take them all, and actually we've got that really exciting stuff happening in the Village Green. Our intervention is less useful there and could be better used elsewhere. So we look forward to getting that clarity so that we can move forward.
Just flagging, I put through an amendment to get some further clarity on that. So I've sent it through to David.
It makes sense. We'll just add it into the main. Yep. Did you want to add something, Mark? Or
yes, thank you. Just to add to what staff have conveyed in response to Councillor Donovan, staff will engage with Christchurch NZ's urban development team further. We have an existing relationship and have met regularly with the General Manager for Urban Development, the current one who's acting, and we'll work collaboratively to develop a work program subject to the outcome of the Section 17A review.
Thank you, and I assume as part of that, because we've just approved a derelict buildings program trial in New Brighton that is in partnership with Christchurch NZ, that'll be taken into consideration. Thank you.
One thing I do think it is probably just worth mentioning, it's kind of slightly linked to this, is we are obviously in the current statement of intent, we don't have our proposed KPI numbers in there. We're looking really hard at that, and we're trying to be really ambitious with it. We're going to push very hard to make sure that we can accentuate and enhance the dollars that we get from council for core funding. I was just talking to Mayor Phil this morning about one way that we're doing that. We've got several ways of kind of getting in that money. The Screen Office is another really good one, where you gave us 100,000 this year and we managed to get that to 430, which enabled us to attract 4 productions instead of 1. So we're going to push our KPIs quite hard. On urban development, uncertainty does cause timing delays, and so there is likely to be a lull in KPIs from urban development that could be significant as a result of the uncertainty. It'll take a while to build that back up again, so I just think it's good that you're aware of that.
Tyrone
Mr.
and
Chair.
Yanni.
Hello, nice to see you. So just in the letter of expectations got a very specific paragraph about Banks Peninsula as the destination within a destination and reporting on that separately. I'm not getting a sense from the statement of intent how that's going to be delivered, or it's not even really referred to at all. And actually, sorry, just a minor point, it refers to destination plans rather than destination management plans, which I'm sure is just an oversight. But just sort of talk to me a little bit about how that's kind of going to manifest in this OI.
I'm going to ask Lauren to come and answer that, because I know that she's actually been doing quite a lot of work in this space already. So,
my squat. I could stand. You're about 6 foot tall. So both of the destination management plans have implementation plans that come out of them, and they're iterative. We do them every year based on need and how we've progressed. We're just developing the implementation plan for Banks Peninsula for next financial year at the moment. We're doing that in partnership with Akaroa District Promotions and also the Banks Peninsula Community Board, and we'll be able to feed back on the progress on that as soon as we develop it. Yeah.
Does that? I mean, sorry, just to be finicky about it, but does that sort of get articulated in the SOI, or is it just,
It's a level of operational detail that we wouldn't put in the SOI, but we can label the destination management plans more clearly within the SOI as forming part of our action.
Just because it's just that flow on from one to the other. Anyway,
Yeah,
cool.
absolutely.
Thank you. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Right, cheers. Thank you.
And then Yanni.
Thank you. Is it true that Christchurch NZ supported an event that's believed to have produced the largest visitor spend of any Christchurch event since the 1974 Commonwealth Games?
It is true. Lauren, do you want to talk? I know you've been talking on the radio this morning about it. So
I think saying anything, be it the Commonwealth Games in 1974, might be inflationary rather than anything else. But certainly since we have been measuring the impact of major events, it is the single largest economic impact that we have ever had. And we have just been discussing what the baseline was compared to the intervention that Christchurch NZ made to get it to that level. So our investment and our work with Electric Ave was to support them in moving to a 2-day festival and in underwriting their international headline acts. So it shifted it from being a domestic event to a 2-day festival that is really on the international map. And so that's the kind of positive business development work that we do with those types of events. And moving into the next year, we're actually going to be supporting Electric Ave on their commercial proposition and building in more private sector partnership to be able to reduce local government support.
Nice. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. I was trying to get a sense of, from reading through, that there's some work that you've done around the creative industries, and some work that you've been doing around gaming and screen. And is it, I think I read somewhere there's a report that's going to come back to us with recommendations and then a funding consideration as well. So, I was keen not to lose track of the good work that's being done in that space initially, but also to understand looking forward what we can do as a city to support screen and support creative industries like local music. So I'm just trying to understand whether we need something in here or not, given that there's other work streams that may be picking that up.
So we, as an agency, act on an intervention basis. So we're always looking for a market opportunity or a market failure that isn't going to be filled by other people. That's when council should intervene, because that's where you can really make the biggest difference. We did a report on the creative industries in Christchurch, which we came and presented at a workshop to council last year alongside Kiri and the team here. We continue to support Toi Otatahi, and we will continue to support that. We don't support it financially, but we support it in other ways. There was not a lot of market failure or opportunity identified from our perspective, from an economic Christchurch NZ perspective in that creative industry report, apart from that interaction between gaming and the digital industries. We are in the process of finalising our screen digital strategy. There are questions about whether that's the best use of intervention when we're limited with resource. So we make decisions on where we spend our money based on return on investment and other criteria. Sometimes you will direct us to do things that might fall outside that. So that is your prerogative as the shareholder. So what we'll do is we'll come with some options and let you know. And you can tell us whether or not screen is one that you want to continue to really go for.
Okay, sorry.
Becomes questions of, do you want to support the aerospace industry and the health tech industry or the creative industry? We can't do them all.
Sure, understood. Sorry, I probably just kind of misread the on page 249 of our agenda. So the economic inequality report, that's the one that's going to be coming back with some recommendations around what we could do. The screen and the gaming stuff is kind of, from your point of view, that work has been complete, and it's a matter for council to pick up and look at what if we want to do more.
So it's also really, we need to think about it as an ecosystem. So the work we're getting involved in and that we're really excited about, we can all see this global mega trend of the convergence of gaming, film, and the creative tech. So we're partnering with UC and Koawa, and we're really trying to think hard, what is the strategy for the region? So we want to come with a really, not just a short term, but a short, medium and long term view of the creative sector. And once we've got clear positions on that, and we can define roles and strategies and plans, and that's when we'll bring you on that journey with us.
Oh, great. So we wouldn't need to put anything in here because you do have some work happening in that space.
In the screen and creative arts area. In the inequality space, it's more challenging. So the report we did on inequality identified definitely things that can be done, but most of them fall outside Christchurch NZ's remit. So we're working with council staff at the moment to understand the appetite for more broadly leaning into that, because a lot of it falls outside what we would do.
Can I just, the final question from me is around, I'm so impressed with what's been happening in terms of housing in New Brighton, and it strikes me as an area that is actually probably a really good example of what we can do when we work together to achieve something that will address inequity and inequality. But in our economic ambition, there's no real mention of housing. But given that you've had a sort of peripheral role in that New Brighton space, I'm wondering if there's anything that we can learn from that, given if we wanted to look at doing more direct market intervention into housing provision rather than just having community housing provided separately. Is there any work going on that in that housing space where you might have a role, or is that something we'd need to direct you to?
I think whilst we have the ongoing uncertainty around urban development, it's difficult to know what our role is in that space. I think more broadly, is housing part of the economic ambition, which we have to remember is not a Christchurch NZ economic ambition, it's a Christchurch ambition. It absolutely falls into it. When we talk to Mana Whanua about what the economic ambition means to them, it very quickly turns to discussions about lack of shoes and school lunches and housing, because they're just intrinsically linked. So you can't just tightly draw a boundary around economic activity and say that the other things are not there. And the economic ambition talks very much about being socially just and economically inclusive. That's a very important part of it. So more broadly, should the ambition look at it? Yes. Is that something that we know our role in it at the moment? I think that's less clear.
So we could ask as part of feedback around that.
We would love to see the ambition, and one of our the key things for our statement of intent this year is that we're increasing the resource that we put behind the ambition to make sure that we can really embed it and get momentum going more broadly than what we've got so far. We've got really good start, but we want to see it deeply embedded in the work that council does across all parts of your programme. Yeah.
One for me. We're still joined up. I know we've talked about when we're doing good news that the ratepayers paying for, that's still being joined up in terms of...
I think, I don't know if Joss is here, but I think we're doing it better than we've ever done. I hope. It's not always perfect, but we're trying. Sorry, I missed
I just said when we're doing good news, we're still doing joined up approaches because because we're paying for.
Yeah, so absolutely, and we make sure that we tag Christchurch City Council and do all we can to make sure that we do it in this joined up as way, so that ratepayers understand that events and the work that Christchurch NZ does comes directly from their
from
rates.
them. Yeah,
yeah,
great.
It's very important.
Okay, so are you wanting to move it, Yanni?
I just one really quick question. Do we need to flag work on a city deal, or I'm just completely confused what's happening in that space?
I'll ask Martin to answer that because he's doing a lot of work on that.
Okay.
So there's a decision made at the Canterbury Mayoral Forum to think about that at a provincial level, so the Canterbury Mayors as one region, and work is underway to scope up what that can be. And so there's active conversations happening, and there will be through the Mayoral Forum, that'll be the vehicle for any activation and delivery. So yeah, there's good stuff in there.
Trying to understand if you guys have done any work as our agency around what a city deal
we have.
might.
We actually, so we started with Christchurch City Council piece of lead work with Greater Christchurch Partners. This was prior to the election. So there's a lot of pre-work being done on that space.
So, I mean, I don't know if anyone else feels concerned that the Mill Forum's now in charge of that city deal. I do. I think it's something we should discuss at a governance level before we enter into those sorts of arrangements. Also, if they're using our resource to do the deal, then I think there is a risk that
Just clarify, it's not just our resource. We're just a contributor and a partner in providing. So yeah, that is getting scoped currently.
Right. I'm just really unclear about decision making around it.
I think maybe Mary, is that something you could take away? Cool. Yep. Great. Thanks, Martin. That's great. Cool. Okay. So I think we're there. That's been moved by Pauline, seconded by the Mayor. All in favour? Oh, sorry. Yes, you got. We've added into this with Sandra, which is your work around the urban development. So it's just.
And report back to council. Sorry.
So that goes off to the...
It's got reports back to council at the. No, you're good. You're good. Have a look on there if you want.
Yeah.
Celeste.
Do you need some time frame? Okay.
Mark, we need time frame to come back.
And just in the interest of time, I was just wondering if we might be able just to add housing into that. Would that be okay?
Why don't we just open it up? No. Okay. What do you want added? If you've got an amendment, let's
just consideration of housing. I mean, I think it comes within that portfolio. It's just being a little bit explicit, but
the mayor's all over that. Don't worry. Okay. Let's just. Can we just take 2 minutes just so that we can get clear on what we're putting up? Yeah. So just. Start it again. So we've got Pauline. You happy to move it still?
Yes, I'm very happy.
The mayor's ecstatic to second it. So let's put that to a vote. All in favour? Against? That's carried. We have, because we've got people on. We've got 3 online too. Yeah. Okay, that is carried. This feels like it's turning to custard. I've got no. We have no council.
No.
Yeah. Okay, let's have the morning tea break now and back at 11 o'clock, please.
got informed I'm back in the chair, so here I am. I know, it's so disappointing for you all. Yeah. It's okay. I won't be singing happy birthday to Kelly, so that's okay. No, he's hiding now. Right, and thank you, Linda and Matt. Welcome. So this is the draft statement of intent for CCHL and the group. So if we can keep our questions confined to that, that would be fantastic. So I'll hand over to Linda.
Thank you. The last of the three today. As with the others, there were workshops with each of the subsidiaries and the CCHL parent throughout March that exposed the kind of the drivers and issues that the subs are facing, the drivers of their profits and costs. Over the SOI period, the CCHL forecasts for the group are showing increased profit as well as increased capital pressures. Dividends are as per the LTP. And with that, I'll ask for questions.
Just before that, Matt, is there anything you want to say before we open it to questions?
No, happy to proceed.
Okay, great. Thanks, Matt. Yanni, just please keep in mind what I said from the chair, that if we can keep the questions with regards to the statement, the draft statement of intent.
So, page 13 of the LBC draft statement of intent, collaborative relationships, talks about embedding a refreshed approach to collaborative employment relations and problem solving. I guess I'm just trying to align that with the concern that's been raised at CCHL's AGM and, of course, around this table in terms of deputations, that the relationship doesn't seem very good at the moment. And I'm just trying to understand in terms of how CCHL, in terms of our statement of intent, what we could do to get greater targets to understand what's happening in that space. Because just reading the words on the paper makes it sound like it's really good. Over the last year, it feels like it's deteriorated quite a lot and doesn't align to what's in the statement of intent.
Yeah, so with respect to LPC specifically, some of our metrics, such as our turnover, is down from 12.1%, I think, to 8.5% in voluntary turnover over the last year. So some of the metrics are actually tracking very, very favourably. I appreciate there are some tensions with respect to the current proposal on the table and the engagement with the unions in that respect. I think the number is, there have been 9 town halls led by the Littleton Port CEO in the last month alone, so certainly visibility is very, very high, but I do understand where you're coming from in terms of the current tension. All of the companies within the group undertake engagement surveys with their staff and report on that, and I'm conscious of your desire for visibility around that and coming back to you with more reporting with respect to their engagement.
So on page 13, where you've got the key performance measures, inclusion index, engagement score, they seem very, very wide and very non-specific. Is there something, a workplace cultural satisfaction score or something that we could have in place that would give us some confidence that things were trending in the right direction? So I know around our council table, for example, when we've looked at our council surveys, actually we get really good data around what's happening in terms of trends and an understanding about how people are feeling about working here. That's a lot greater than what's in this.
I think there's a level of detail within the operating companies that goes to another level beyond this. I think that's across the board with respect to KPIs and targets that they might well have on an internal basis. But appreciate if you want more colour around this, we can absolutely go away and have a look at what more can be provided in that respect.
So I'll signal that I'll happy to move a resolution to that effect.
Do you need one? I mean, Matt signalled that they are willing, that they've got that information, I believe.
Would be good to formally record our feedback, so there's a record of it.
Okay.
We can. Yeah, and the other question I had in regards to LPC, and I know I've just got an answer back quite recently, but I'm still concerned around the cruise ship. We asked for work around an environmental and social levy, and I'm just not clear. It feels like we've made that request, but nothing's actually been considered because they don't want to scare the cruise ships from coming, which seems kind of counterproductive or counterintuitive to what we've actually requested.
But is that a speculation, or is that from CNZ or the port company? I'm not quite sure where that's coming.
So I put these questions through around this when we had our briefing, and I got the response back at 9:11.
And who is it from? Back from? Sorry,
back from CC. Oh, I'm not from council staff, so I don't have a name of who provided it. Just from the Office of the Chief Executive. So I got it back this morning. And yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, there's a whole bunch. Did you guys all get that, or did I only get it?
It's a fair question, but I just think it'd be good to get a bit more information to kind of drive that a wee bit. So could we just take that offline at the moment and get information? So Mary, can you follow that up? Is that okay? Thank you.
Okay.
It's a fair question, and we have asked, and you have asked it before, but there's no information, so it's kind of no one at the table can answer that at the moment. So I think if Mary can follow that up, that'd be great to us.
But I think giving feedback as part of this process that it's still important.
No, I'm totally acknowledging it, but there's no one that can answer it. So it's not a pointless question. It's a very good question, but the point is to get the answer. And so Mary has said she will follow up on it and get the answer to us.
Yeah.
And maybe, Matt, that's something you'll take on board for sure.
Yeah, absolutely happy. Look, I think it's a much wider issue than cruise ship emissions. We're focused on Scope 3 emissions generally, and we had a briefing in front of council regarding our intentions in that space. So, yeah, far more than cruise ship emissions in our mind. It's Scope 3 emissions generally, which are, part of our thinking for our long-term planning.
But in the response I got, it said that bus costs led to multiple services skipping Littleton and going to other New Zealand ports.
But what I've asked for is for Mary to follow up, so because then there are some other people wanting to ask questions.
Yeah, I've got a few more on CHL, but I'll leave others to ask now, and then we'll come back if we've got time. Cool.
Thank you. Tyrone.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've got a question along a similar theme. So just on page 12 of the SOI for the
could we have the page of the
port? Yeah, I'm getting there.
That's
Thank
right,
you, Mr. Chair. I was going to say page 12. It's page 408 of our agenda. Sorry, but you're right to raise that.
Thank you.
It talks about it's throughout the SOI, but it specifically talks about strategic priorities, engagement, with the workforce and all that sort of stuff. Now, the port's going through it's done the pre-engagement for a 30-year master plan at the moment, right? It's employed a consultant, GHD, which isn't the place that makes the hair straighteners, but I don't think it is anyway. So they did. So we had at Community Board, we had a presentation by the consultant on last Monday where he talked about all the people that he's engaged and talked to for the pre-engagement for the master plan. And I said, well, have you talked to the unions? And they said no. So I'm kind of like a bit perplexed about the gap between talking about engagement with the workforce and doing a master plan where you're not really talking to the people that work there at all. It's kind of like, would you do a master plan of a hospital without talking to the doctors?
Look, I'm happy to pick that up. I think there has been a lot of engagement or attempted engagement with the unions of late and any staff affected, and particularly as part of the current restructure. I can't comment to the engagement specifically to the 30-year master planning process, but that is still at a very early stage, and we're going to come back in front of council before we're making any significant steps forward with respect to that planning stage. So,
thanks, Matt. Because just to underline that, there was a newspaper article yesterday where the consultant talked about having talked to 50 different people and organisations, 50, which is quite a lot. I'm surprised that the Maritime Union and the RMTU wouldn't be among those 50, but
I'll pick that up with Graham to make sure that there is appropriate staff engagement as part of that. But
thank you, Tyrone. It's a really good point. So thank you, Celeste.
It's just a very sort of specific question, but you mentioned town hall meetings, which sounds great. Are they open to the public? Like, what's the format for those? Is it an internal thing, or is it, because when I think of a town hall, I think everyone's welcome to come. It's fully sort of open to the public. Is that the?
No, these are staff meetings where Graham is actually, out and about on their location, their site where they're working, wherever that might be within the port. So the terminology, but internal LPC meetings.
I see. And is there because I think if it's presented as being sort of a, because to me that's just sort of BAU stuff, right? Internal meetings with workers.
Oh, absolutely. But I'm just saying we're taking it to another level at the moment.
So if we wanted to take it to another level, which is more of a public form of engagement that includes workers, is there a format for that?
Yeah,
Like
I think there was an 8-minute online video that's just been put up in the last week or so. We've extended the silt curtain and spending some more money, sort of going above and beyond what our resource consent requirements are. So there's no sort of one forum where we try and cover everything off, but there are initiatives to engage more widely with the public, and digital's probably the most accessible of those.
So just in terms of asking, you mentioned you could go back to Graham, is that something that we could get a bit more information on, like maybe having more of a town hall format that is open if you're going to have them within the internal organisation? Is that something we can look at? Just looking at page 408 in terms of, some of the kind of objectives around engaging with people and making sure that there is good communication.
Yeah, I mean, I'll happily pick it up with Graham. There is, as Councillor Fields alluded to, there was 50 lots of engagement with the community. There's the Mana Whenua Advisory Group. There's various forms. There's the whakaora for the harbour health. There's various engagement forums that Graham particularly attends. So if there needs to be more, and if we think another group is missing out, then grateful for that feedback. But yeah, we are trying different versions of engagement at the moment.
So this might be if you emailed Matt just your specific concern of what you want to achieve, that it might help. Okay, thank you. And Kelly.
Thanks, Matt. Just looking on page 283 under 4.6, you talk about we're talking about the debt of the group is approximately 2.8 billion, and which is an increase of around 300 million since last term, and it's obviously to support current infrastructure or reinvestment in. How comfortable CCHL with the debt level at the moment?
Yeah, look, we're comfortable, and we're refinancing some debt shortly. So the current position is acceptable, but the interest burden is significant across the group, and ultimately debt. The higher our debt burden, the less flexibility it allows us to pursue any alternative initiatives or support the subsidiaries or deal with times of challenge, which we've all faced around here. So there's no sort of straightforward answer to your question, but certainly over the next 10 years there's a growth in our debt profile at a group level. We're seeing significant investment, particularly in Orion, and to some degree over at the airport, and so managing that as a something that we're comfortable with where it stands at the moment, but we have limited flexibility.
And the impact of interest payment of 100 million in each of the past 2 years, I mean, does that seriously limit, what you're able to do?
We're well within our covenant ratios. We're comfortable with where we stand today, but absolutely, the debt and the interest cost associated with it does limit what we can do, and we have to be prudent with respect to meeting our financial ratios that are expected by our bondholders.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Yanni, we've got number 4 up there, and are you happy with that?
I can't read it from here.
Oh, do you want to get up and have a look?
I think it was more a request for CCHL and its companies to provide additional key performance measures around engagement and cultural surveys. So, yeah. Sorry, I was just drafting something here. It's just hard because I just got it this morning, a couple of minutes before we started. But so effectively, like, I would like to call out LPC on page 12. So I think
what's the overall page? But it does context and detail it to the engagement and culture surveys. So I mean, isn't that covering what you're after? I mean, asking for the details of the engagement, which is something that Celeste brought up, which is quite right.
The feedback is putting something in the SOI in terms of a KPM that shows a target so that we can clearly monitor and know what's happening. At the moment, the targets are so wide that it's really hard, and there's no trend information.
Well,
sorry, there is trend information, but there's just a contradiction between what's in the SOI around the industrial relations and what's the feedback we're getting on the ground.
I know what you're trying to achieve, but what I think would be better is to ask Matt to go back to the subs and ask them to look at this and bring something back rather than...
Yeah, totally.
So I'm quite happy, I know it's yours, but I think it's better to be kind of open rather than kind of...
that's fine.
Is that okay? So I know what you're trying to achieve. I think we all know what you're trying to achieve, which is right, but...
And it's also around industrial relationships.
Yep.
So that needs to be put in.
But my concern is that if we put too much detail in, it'll close it down. I think if we can leave it up, because Matt is quite aware of what you're after. Would that be a fair statement? So can we let Matt go back to the subs with this number 4 and come back next time with this information? Because this is only a draft, so we're not signing off on anything at the moment.
Right.
But they will come back, and that's when you can ask if it's missing.
So it's not so much as more context and detail. It's actually around setting targets that show and then measuring against targets to show what's happening. Does that make sense?
So the targets are there, just for the record, on page 13, but you want more targets or you want different targets?
Yeah, well, more specific targets, and actually targets around the industrial relationships, which we don't... you can't tell from that. And in fact, as I said, when you read the report, the SOI, it makes it sound like everything's really good. But I mean, I don't think it is. It's certainly not what I've seen in the last year. Things are getting worse. Things have been deteriorating. So
what do you, I mean, it's...
So how can we have confidence that there's a commitment to improving those relationships with the targets that are being set? Is the key.
Entirely.
So,
through you, Mr. Chair. I mean, so if I understand correctly, Councillor Henson, what you're seeking are the targets, some more targets to be
more specific
targets to be presented, and I guess that's a question that we can, because this is providing feedback to the to CCHL for them to consider, and so we can present that and ask rather than requested to provide more context and detail, it can be requested to provide more specific performance measures relating to the engagement and culture surveys undertaken.
And industrial relationships.
And industrial relationships. And that we can then ask the CCHL board to consider that, and that could be presented. But it is, under the SOI, I think it is important to understand what the purpose of the SOI is, to ensure that we get a statement of intent from them, and it is by nature quite a strategic document. And to the chair's point, we need to be careful of not going too granular.
Sure.
Otherwise, we risk closing down the overall objectives that we're seeking to achieve.
When we're reading things in the SOI that do not align with what's been happening, it's concerning, right? And there are very specific things in there around industrial relationships, working with unions, collaborating, that are not being matched with the feedback we're hearing at this council table.
So I'm just... I haven't heard in any writing the opposite of this. So I'm just kind of thinking what you want to achieve. If I'm correct, Yanni, is what are the targets set and how close we are, or CCH and the family are, to achieving those? Is that
Yeah, but my biggest concern remains with LPC, given that they've had a number of cultural reviews. There's been obviously this health and safety stuff there that's important, and there's cultural stuff there that's important. And so, because in the SOI, it basically frames it as though everything's good with the unions and we're going to keep working collaboratively. When you talk to the unions, that's not the feedback that they've been given. I mean, some of the unions have passed motions of no confidence in management. So I just want to get to a point where we can kind of get an agreed focus on improving things rather than letting them deteriorate as they currently seem to be doing.
Sure. If you don't mind, I've got Tyler that's had his hand up for some time. Can we move on a wee bit? I won't drop it, but yeah. So Tyler.
Good, guys. Can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Awesome. Just a quick one around the debt. So if I'm right in remembering, it's around $400 million post-earthquake. Is that correct?
The debt, sort of various measures of it. We've got 1.2 billion at a CCHL level, but there was about $400 million taken on post-earthquake. You're right.
Okay, and this is just for public knowledge and mine, because I didn't really dive deep into it enough. But for a bit of a history lesson, so councils asked CCHL after the earthquakes for $400 million to draw down on to be able to rebuild infrastructure.
Yeah, it was before my time, and I'm not sure what it was exactly used for, but absolutely, that's roughly the number that was paid as special dividends by Christchurch City Holdings to council at that time.
Okay, so then the question is, whose responsibility is it to pay back that $400 million that council's asked to pay, that council's asked for?
Absolutely, CCHL.
Okay, so okay, and so then if we're thinking about repaying that debt and also asking for $65 million over 26, 27 and 28, 66, how does that help you track along with the repayment of that debt if we're asking for dividends of around 65, 66? Do you think that's sustainable and do you think that's achievable?
Yeah, I think it is, and this
for long-term benefit.
This is. Yeah, in a perfect world, I wouldn't have that debt, and I could repay that debt much more quicker, of course. But we're comfortable with where we stand. We have proposed a dividend policy within the statement of intent, and the projected dividends align with what we've proposed there. That gives us some scope to reduce debt, albeit modestly, in the short term. But we're hopeful of continuing to modestly pay back that debt, which I think is a fair approach, balancing the needs of today versus those of the future.
Oh, that's good, and that was put into your statement, which was great. The next question is around capital investment and things of the sort, or all of the subs. Will they look to borrow more, all of the subs, and will they look to use PCHL as a guarantor, or will they look for you to borrow to put into that capital? For example, LPC with their new infrastructure, etc., etc.
Yeah, for the most part, the subsidiaries borrow in their own right, and we don't guarantee those borrowings at CCHL. There is some borrowing that we do where it's most cost effective to borrow in the name of CCHL and on-lend that to the subsidiaries. So we take a balanced approach, and some subsidiaries we support with on-lending, and some subsidiaries borrow in their own right for various reasons.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Celeste. You had your hand up, and I'll just...
Yeah, wasn't quite sure, but I just wondered, because you've got the noting provision 4, whether it would be possible, in regards to the question I asked, getting some information. So it's just noting that there's been a request put through. Would that be possible? So the question around the types of engagement that we've got in terms of who the key...
Well, I think that would be covered here, but Matt's aware of what you were talking about, so I think that would be...
Just wondered if it would be useful to put it in this context, because it sort of speaks to Councillor Johansson's point around getting visibility of the culture, and I think part of that would be visibility of some of the discussions that are happening that we don't have access to, for instance, the town halls.
Town hall meetings, wherever they take place between the staff and management are private, and they should be. And then there are other meetings that you can have that are more public, if I'm correct, Matt. Yep. So, but just to remind us that we don't get involved with operation, that we are, just give me a minute. So, but I think what might be a good way forward, because if you look at the family of subs, which we're looking at the SOI, there's one issue here with one of their subs, which kind of is overshadowing the rest of the work that's being done by all of our other subs and the other work that the sub is doing. So I'm just wondering, Matt, maybe for this particular issue, that maybe yourself and LPC come back with a separate, another update to the councillors.
Yeah, more than happy to provide colour on what engagement is going on, community, staff, unions. Yeah, that's absolutely no issue there. And if there are gaps, really appreciate the feedback.
Yeah,
because sure,
Tyler,
that'd be great.
Tyrone did offer up a couple of gaps that had been identified. So that but you've got that on, you've taken that on board. So.
And that, of course, will come back in time for the adoption of the statement.
Yeah, this is a draft. This is just a draft.
I'm just clarifying that because we don't have it written, so I'm just making sure that that's the.
This comes back to council by
request.
30th of June,
Sure.
and certainly we can come back to you well in advance.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, I realise that. So, Yanni, I do want to move this on because it has been identified, the issue that you've raised.
So I'll send. So I've just got some additional points of feedback as well. Do you want me just to email those through, or
feedback for what?
Oh, for the SOIs.
Yeah. So what are you wanting to for that to go back to Matt, or to what?
Yeah, I think that's the process, right? Like we did with the previous one. We just bullet point list of feedback.
Okay, great.
But I can quickly just raise them with you now, and then I'll just email them through. Is that?
I'll just email them through, and that's the process. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. But I am keen to move this forward. Okay.
If you could tell us.
Yeah. What are? Read them out.
Okay. Cool. So the first one, I think we've already dealt with LPC around the performance measures around industrial relations and company culture. I did want in the LPC one for us to get more detail on the SOA regarding the city depot and future developments to mitigate the environmental effects. This is the one in Woolston. It's not mentioned in the SOI. It would just be good to know what's being done there. The second one was request CCHL to develop greater targets in regards to diversity in addition to gender. It's not a new request, but I think there has been some work being done on it. It leaves it quite broad. And the final one was just around continuing that request that we've had for some time to show restraint through senior executive remuneration, and ask that there's a continued focus on reporting on and closing the gap between the lowest paid versus the highest paid, which in the response that I've got, I understand CCHL have been doing work in that regard, so it's just really reinforcing the visibility of it. Thanks.
Thank you. And look, thank you, Yanni, for acknowledging the work that is happening, because at times we sit here and it seems very negative, but there is a lot of good work being done. So, and I want to thank Matt, and please pass that on to the subsidiaries as well. So, yeah, we do recognise that, but there are some gaps there, and if we can just tidy those up, that would be very good.
Thanks.
So I'm actually happy to move this from the chair. Yanni, are you happy to second it? Oh, sorry?
Inclusion of the additional points of feedback. Yeah.
Okay. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? It's carried. Thank you. And just on behalf of the chair. Okay. Thank you. And just on behalf of the chair and deputy chair, I will move item 14 to go into PX. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Phil. All in favour? Against? It's carried. Thank you.